Lesson 1.1.3, Formulating a Thesis. How to use exploratory questions to develop a sound historical argument. As we explore the structure of a good thesis, I will reference Patrick Rail's online publication. He provides excellent instruction on how to write historical essays, and you can access his online publication using the website and the following citation. What is a thesis? It is an idea. Specifically, the thesis is the controlling idea around which you construct your argument and your narrative. Your thesis explains why or how something happened. Every word of your argument should support your thesis. This means, of course, that an argument with a weak or missing thesis is irrelevant. As you watch this video, information found in the yellow boxes with the red outlines is used to answer the questions found in your notes. Feel free to pause the video at any time to ensure you can answer those questions correctly. Ideas are generated as you ask questions, and good questions require thought and research. Let's start with a common historical question. Should the atomic bomb have been dropped on Japan? It's an impactful question. However, as stated, this question requires no research or any special understanding to answer. All it asks for is an opinion, and anyone can voice an opinion. Many individuals have. But if we want to develop a true historical narrative around this event, much more thought and research is required. One way to begin framing a better question is to steadily add facts supported by evidence. Your questions need to be guided by solid historical evidence, and applying that evidence will expand and refine your questions and lead you to a better understanding of what happened and why. So let's add some historical facts that are supported by evidence that may drive our question about the atomic bomb. And let's think in terms of givens. Given. The Japanese military established had vowed to fight to the bitter end. Given. The United States government was becoming increasingly concerned with post-war struggles with the Soviet Union. Given. Many in the United States expressed what may be called racist views against the Japanese. In fact, the United States government forced Japanese Americans into concentration camps during the war. Given. The United States had already embarked on an extensive and deadly campaign of firebombing Japanese cities. Exploring some of the evidence surrounding the decision to drop the bomb leads us to further questions. What impact did racism have on the decision to drop the bomb? What impact did the Cold War have? What impact did military strategy have? Look at the evidence and keep asking questions. Now you need to explore your premises and make them clear. The questions we've discussed are not quite explicit enough. So what if people in the United States were racist against the Japanese? Does that have anything to do with the legitimacy of dropping the atomic bomb? Most of us make the connection and say yes. But it's very important not to let assumptions go unstated. It's the task of every author to make every part of the argument explicit. So keep asking your questions and be explicit. An explicit view of the evidence leads you to a better understanding. Okay? So let's take these three areas and make them more clear. Now, good questions result from curious observations of primary source material. Did racism lead the U.S. to drop the bomb on Japan when it would not have done so on Germany? We're taking that idea of racism and we're making it clear in our questioning. How exactly did American views of the Japanese and the Germans differ? And how could such a popular cultural view have influenced a foreign and military policy that was thought to be rational? Okay? Good questions may challenge accepted wisdom. For example, It was accepted by many that the reason for dropping the bomb was to shorten conflict and minimize casualties. However, what in Roosevelt's dealings with Stalin might have prompted the U.S. to drop the bomb on Japan? How might U.S. strategists have thought dropping the bomb would have been useful as a deterrence to the Soviet Union? Challenging accepted wisdom, taking a different view. Good questions also tend to complicate a seemingly clear-cut topic. For example, what rationally could U.S. strategists have considered necessary to win the war against Japan? Why did they press for unconditional surrender when they knew Japan was beaten? Was it actually the case that dropping the bomb saved U.S. lives? If so, what about the moral costs of bombing civilian non-combatants? Okay. Your thesis will evolve from good questioning. A thesis which does not answer a question or just answers a simple or obvious question is not really a thesis. As you explore primary source material and work to ask thoughtful questions, use those questions to refine your ideas, and the best theses are good precisely because the questions they answer are significant, complex, and original. So we've taken this simple question, should the U.S. have dropped the bomb on Japan? And we've opened up a whole series of new questions. Did racism play a role in dropping the bomb? Did the emerging Cold War play a role in dropping the bomb? Did the U.S. drop the bomb as a military strategy? Remember, it's always better to ask questions you think you cannot answer than to stop asking questions. Now, this only happens when you know enough about your subject to know how to push your questioning. You've got to review your evidence. How could you have known that racial stereotypes of the Japanese may have played a role in dropping the bomb if you didn't do any research about the time period? Okay. Finally, there are some very large questions that underlie this entire debate. We need to be aware and identify these core questions. What were the legitimate reasons to drop the bomb? Was it okay to use a weapon of mass destruction, especially against a civilian population? Try to identify and clarify the underlying core of your questioning. As you examine these core questions, they may not be the immediate subject of your investigation, but you should be aware of these underlying questions and always keep them in mind. Core questions tend to be the ones that make all the other questions worth asking. Okay, so let's review. How do we develop a thesis about a topic? First, you identify your topic. Second, you explore the circumstances and the evidence surrounding the topic. Identify those key facts or those givens that are related to what you're studying. Third, develop questions around your topic. Allow your research to lead you to more questions. Use your questioning to develop a unique idea that addresses the complexity of this topic, and find those core questions that really help you understand what's happening. Fourth, let your questioning lead you to a unique perspective. Allow questions about evidence to guide your narrative. Then, construct your thesis. We've got some ideas about what may have led the U.S. to drop the bomb. Let's take those ideas and make a statement about why we dropped the bomb, why the United States dropped the bomb in Japan. Let's look at a simple formula that you can follow in order to take those ideas and make your thesis. Now, this is just one possibility among many, but it works pretty well. Start with a concessive clause. State an idea that's well accepted about the topic. If you don't concede something, you appear unreasonable. By conceding an idea, your point is going to stand out. You'll have contrasted it with an opposing position. Okay. Although dropping the atomic bomb on Japan avoided many American and Japanese casualties. Okay. Then state your main argument. Your perspective of the evidence. The bomb was dropped in order to deter the advance of the Russians. The subject of your main clause should be the subject of your paper. Don't present it in a form of I will show or I hope to prove. Just state your idea and be concise. Then complete your thesis with a because clause. This will force you to summarize support for your thesis as concisely as possible. Because Russia sought Japanese territory, and American strategists wanted to use the threat of the atomic bomb to fight the spread of communism. So with all three parts, the concessive clause, your main idea, and your because clause, the thesis reads as follows. Although dropping the atomic bomb on Japan avoided many casualties, the bomb was used in order to deter the advance of the Russians. Because Russia sought Japanese territory and American strategists wanted to use the threat of the atomic bomb to fight the spread of communism. All right. We've taken this general question, we've examined it with evidence, and we've allowed our questioning to guide us to an answer. Okay? Now, be sure you review the contents of your primary sources and check your thesis with a couple of questions. Is my thesis really true? What evidence at my disposal makes my thesis false? And how could I modify my thesis to make it true? Writing a thesis takes a lot of thought and a lot of practice. Train yourself to question what you read about the past. Let your primary sources and your questions lead you to some new ideas, and have fun with your research. In our next lesson, we'll take a look at how to structure an essay that supports your thesis.